By default, to load balance HTTP requests, Spring Cloud API Gateway will use the built-in Ribbon load balancer. And it is a built-in client, and we do not need to install any additional libraries to make it work. And in this video lesson, I'm going to try how the load balancing works in Spring Cloud API Gateway. I'll start up Eureka server, I'll start up Spring Cloud API Gateway, and then I'll start up 2 instances of my products microservice. Then I will send a few HTTP requests to products web service endpoint, and I will expect that my Spring Cloud API Gateway will equally balance traffic between the 2 running instances of my products microservice. Alright, but first I'll need to make a little change to my products microservice. Okay, so let's go to products service. I will open a REST controller class and I will make a little change. So the change that I want to make is to make my products microservice display the port number on which it is running. And to do that, I will first inject into this controller class an environment object. Like this. And I will import auto-variant annotation. And I will import the environment object from org springframework.core.inv. Alright, so this will inject into products controller object an environment object that will allow us to access configuration properties of this Spring Boot application and other environment values. And now I will use this environment object to access the running port number. So when HTTP GET request is sent, I will print out additional information, which will be the port number on which this instance of microservice is running. Okay, so I will return HTTP GET handled, and then plus I will use an instance of environment object to get a property with a key local server port, like this. Okay, so if you remember, in the application properties file, we have configured the server port, but in the controller class, we are printing a local server port. So the little difference between this port number is that this port number is the one we configure, but later on it will change, and eventually when this application starts up, it updates to use a new random port number. So this one is a configuration port number, but the value that is used in the controller class here, the local server port number, will resolve to actual port number on which this microservice is running. Okay, so if I attempt to print just server port, then it will print 0. But if I print local server port, then it will print the actual port number on which this microservice is running. Now I will save my products controller class, and now I'm ready to run a couple of instances of this application and see if my Spring Cloud API Gateway will balance HTTP requests that it receives among the running instances of this microservice. So I will start up Discovery server first. Now I will start up product service. And I will start up one more instance of the same product service. So now I have 2 instances running. And finally, I will start up API Gateway. Okay, and now I will bring Postman, and I will send the HTTP request to products web service endpoint and see what port number it will return. So here I already have HTTP GET request to a products web service endpoint that is exposed by my product service via API Gateway. So the port number here is a port number of my API Gateway. I'll send this request and I get port number 57198. Let's try sending it one more time. And now I get a different port number, 57180. So this means that this HTTP request was processed by another instance of my products microservice, even though I send the request to the same URL. Now, if I send it a few times more, I will see that the port number will always change. So my Spring Cloud API Gateway will try to balance HTTP requests between these 2 running instances. You see that? It is always changing. Alright, so it looks like the load balancing client of Spring Cloud API Gateway is working well for us, and I can start more instances of the same products microservice, and I can try sending a few more requests. And if I keep track of the port numbers that are being used to service these HTTP requests, I will see that Spring Cloud API Gateway is trying to balance these HTTP requests among the available instances of products microservice. Alright, so everything is good. Let's continue.